Now, very happy to have back on our friend, law professor Jennifer Taub, law professor at Wayne State University Law School in Detroit. And you can find her every morning, Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on her YouTube show, Jen Taub Live. Hello, Jen. You're here live now. Jen Taub Live is now, as well as in
I'm
the morning,
live.
but right now, this is Jen Taub. It's AI Jen Taub. So how are you, my friend? Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm not AI. I was trying to make a clever AI answer. I'm actually much better now that we have some hopeful news out of New York. And I'm trying
What?
to, yes.
What? You're hopeful about this? Don't you know what's happening? It's destroying America. You know what Donald Trump Jr. posed? I'm old enough to remember when New Yorkers endured 9/11 instead of voting for it. Nancy Mason, after
Oh
9/11,
my
we should never
God.
forget. I think we sadly have forgotten. Don't you understand that this 33-year-old charismatic guy is going to bring the downfall of society? This is just unbelievable. But let's talk about the good first, then we'll get to the ugly. All right. So, why are you happy about it? Tell me why.
I'm happy, I guess, for two reasons. The first is because I like what his vision is for New York. Far from it
Right.
being sort of this commie takeover New York, these are basic, fundamental, kind of conservative ideas, quite honestly, about how to share prosperity in the city. Let me give you an example. This idea of providing cribs to children who don't have them. Or, there was something that was part of the welfare program years ago, a layette. I didn't even know that word until I was doing I was doing legal services when I was in law school. And a layette is, and it's offered still in some states here, in other countries. It's like a basket of like a blanket and clothing and diapers and things when you have a new baby. The kind of thing that you might give to a friend in a community where you have some money. But if you're in a poor community, everyone's scraping by, right? So this is something that was already around. He's just taking that to another level. The other example, free bus fare. That's something he had already had in place. I think he had pushed for when he was an assemblyman. They just want to put that back in. That actually helps businesses if workers
Mm-hmm.
can get to their stores or get to their jobs. And the third thing is just expanding rent control. That's a concept that's been part of New York forever. There even the Mitchell Lama housing where you would like pay in a small amount of money and years later it would go private and you would make a bundle. So this is so far from radical. I mean, I love it because it's dealing with the number one concern people have, which is the rent's too high. We can't pay the bills.
Right.
And the other thing that thrills me is the guy his name is Loeb. I had a screenshot of him on this morning who had put out a tweet saying it's hot commie summer in New York. And it was like, that's going to be your negative. This is making it sound
Hot commie
real.
summer in New York.
I mean, everyone has that now as their new playlist. I think it's coming to a political theater near you. And so this guy Loeb is like a hedge fund manager worth over $2 billion. And if that doesn't tell you who is fighting the class war and who are the victims, I don't know what does. So,
I
so
think
the
it's I
wait, there's
what
one
can
more
I
thing,
just say
Dean.
that
You go,
okay, go
go.
ahead.
No,
You can
you
say
go.
many more things. No, no.
Oh,
I was going to
on this,
say,
I have one more
just
point.
as an
Yeah.
aside here,
Yeah.
so that when you say hot commie summer, I can sing the song Hot in the City and then just add commie in it somewhere. They do a parody,
Oh
like
my
hot commie
God.
in the city or something like that. I just think,
That's
sorry,
an
that's
old
all I
song.
wanted to
We're
say.
old. The other thing
That's an old
is
song.
my
Go ahead.
cousin, my friend, my Semitic brother, he brought together Jews and Muslims. The fact that Lander, who's a controller of New York, Brad Lander, stepped forward and they
Mm-hmm.
cross endorsed each other, brought
Yep.
tears to my eyes. And then Tish James in there, and this sort of group of people saying, yeah, we know how to stand together, something that's been really hard for the past few years. And it made me feel hopeful in all sorts of ways. I mean, I think the fact that that is happening, I think more Jewish people are going to do what Lander did. But if it weren't for Brad Lander and Zohan Mamdani saying, let's hold hands here, we're stronger together, it wouldn't have happened. And that is the lesson for society. That's a lesson for our multiracial democracy. And that is the antidote to the bigotry and racism that the Republican Party continues to spew.
Yeah, and also in the last 24 hours, Gerald Nadler, who's my congressman, who's one of the highest-ranking Jewish officials, longest-serving Jewish officials, endorsed Zohran, and so did Scott Stringer, a former New York City comptroller, who's also Jewish. As I keep telling people, there's even a Democrat from Long Island, Gillen, who said I can't endorse him because his anti-Semitic comments, without putting any examples of them. Why don't you give us examples of where he's been anti-Jewish? Because these Jewish officials, nor would I, nor would people in my community support him. That's not the reality. Now, you're getting to the point of like his support of Netanyahu and the policy of the state of Israel. You don't like that. That's a different discussion, but that's what they're really getting at, and they're smearing it. And that's why they won't give examples, because they're not going to bring up anything about Jews in New York. Because his whole thing is I played it earlier. He pledged on the campaign trail to create a community safety board unit in New York that's going to deal with hate crimes. He's going to fund it. And it's going to deal with anti-Semitism. He's talked about it's too high in New York. It's outrageous. There shouldn't be anywhere in New York, anywhere in the country.
Right.
So he's out there as a minority faith himself, because we know what it's like as a minority faith to be demonized and feel like another, to protect the Jewish community. What these people want, who are really upset with him, they want him to be completely supportive of Netanyahu. And only 20% of Jews voted for Trump. 80% voted for Harris in 2024.
Thank you. And I think how the whole thing is, how important it is to talk to your own group, right? So I have various chats, and about a week ago, I noticed that I'm trying to be as discreet as I can. I noticed that there's a particular Jewish woman in one of my chats who was very much against Mamdani. And I was like, well, why? I mean, you're saying he's anti-Semitic. Can you give me an example? I did that, right? And then her example was because he refuses to say that the expression globalize the Intifada can only have one meaning, and that he doesn't believe that Israel should exist as a Jewish state. And so here's my deal in response to her. And you know where I am on this. I think that Israel and America are two different countries. I think some anti-Israeli comments are anti-Semitic, but some aren't. It just depends. It's like saying making a comment about a country in the African continent. It might be racist. It might not be. But I'm horrified at what Netanyahu is doing. The response to October 7th should have ended a long time ago. What's happening now is genocide and war crimes, no question. Also, I condemn the settlers. So, and I don't think of myself as anti-Israel any more than I'm anti-American when I condemn the administration. Okay. So I was kind of like, that's what you got? And I said, in my view, this isn't a story about anti-Semitism. This is a story about class, that he is a candidate about the new generation listening to what people want. This is multiracial democracy. This isn't about us. And then I quit that group. I mean,
wow.
Oh, but Dean, because I felt like, because reason why I addressed it in the group first is because I was going to go out, and put all over Twitter, Blue Sky, how much I love this guy. And I didn't want to be in a chat with some friends who'd be like, how can she be saying that publicly and privately, just sitting here lurking? So first I made clear where I was, then I was excited, and then I left the group. I'm in other groups, but
let's talk about a couple of things though that you said. Because he never said globalize the Intifada. He was asked on the Bulwarks podcast, what do you think of that expression? And he said, and I watched some of it, he said, it means different things to different people. And that he said he didn't take it on direct. He did like a politician. He goes, look, there are people who want to speak out about Palestinian humanity, and they do it in different ways. Why he went on the Bulwark, why go on a Republican, you're running for the Democratic nomination. They're not in your best interest, right? And so they'll go through a list of things. Before you came on, I was saying that the anti-Muslim bigotry we're seeing now, I'm so concerned it's going to manifest as hate crimes, but also on the other part of it, getting to that globalized Intifada. For us, if you advocate for Palestinians, and I'm of Palestinian heritage, my family lives in the West Bank, there's an increasing list of words I'm not allowed to use. They keep changing. You can't say free Palestine. You can't say river to the sea. You can't say globalize the Intifada. You can't wear a keffiyeh. You can't even eat watermelon at this point because it's a Palestinian thing. Like, where does it end? In what other struggle has the oppressed people been told there's only certain words you can use to fight oppression against you and your people? And this is insane. And
then,
if it was something, to me, in that line should be, if it's something hateful against Jews, no place for it. But in language about an occupation and oppression, they're not advocating violence, so everything's fine.
Let me tell you context. So this is where I might disagree with him and you, but it doesn't make him not a candidate, right? People are always accusing the left of being purists. I think the centrists are purists, okay? Context to me matters. October 8th, if people are shouting globalize the intifada, to me that meant something different. I got to tell you, that meant something different because it felt like they were saying that armed struggle against civilians is acceptable. I don't agree. There are different views.
And I can understand that, right? I can understand that one makes, right. I can understand that, right? Depends how you said and where you're saying it, right?
And I also know there are people who may even feel more strongly around the, if we tell you it means something to us, it does. I think it's really hard. Like you're saying, to me, intifada means struggle. It means uprising. And to globalize it does, I think maybe some people think it means violence. I think the idea more it could, but he's not running to be ambassador to the Middle East. He's running for mayor of New York City. Right. And the people who are making those nitpicky comments were willing to put their money in their mouth behind Andrew Cuomo. So GTFOH. I'm not swearing anymore, so I'm only using acronyms. Get the F out of here.
Really?
You know why it happened? I stopped swearing after Donald Trump dropped the F-bomb on Iran and Israel.
But I don't curse a lot on the show. But Jen, because you're right, a subjective meaning, like if you want to define intifada, and if it became known generally as meaning a violent struggle to kill Jews, and then you're saying globalize, I'd be like, don't do that. Now, intifada has always been debated because people on the right want to define it as violence when it means shaking off or the idea of ending this oppression. But you can say there was definitely violence, horrible violence that was part of the intifada. I can see that. But I can tell you the other side for people is, if you're a Palestinian and you hear someone say, I'm a Zionist, that means different things to different people.
Right.
That's the truth. Because to certain people who I know are Zionists, they'll say, I'm a Zionist, but I believe there should be a Palestinian state next to an Israeli state. And other Zionists say it should all be Jewish exclusively. That's it. If you want to be a Christian and Muslim, stay there, but you're not going to have any guaranteed rights. Or even worse, ethnically cleansed like Ben Gvir and Smotrich. Right. To them, Zionism means free of Christians and Muslims, only Jews. So same thing. Someone
and by the way, not all Jews.
What that means different things to all of us when we hear it.
And those Zionists don't even count.
Right. Go ahead, say that. That's a good point.
I mean, because there's also what kind of Jew are you? You like Palestinian Jew? You're a secular Jew? So I mean, and I love that you're saying that. And I think the whole thing about this is, if we want to have understanding and peace in the world, we have to give space for different meanings of different words. It's like that book, Getting to Yes. It should be interest-based conversation, not position-based. Like if you're going to take this hardened position that these words only mean X and they only mean Y or whatever, how are we ever going to have a conversation? Because like you're saying, you're stealing my vocabulary. You're silencing me. I don't want to silence anyone. I mean, and vice versa,
also,
right?
I mean, can we trade words? Can we, I always say, okay, we can't say free Palestine, then you can't say Zionism. How about that?
Right.
Like, can we? And they'll say, what do you mean I can't say Zionism? Then why can't someone who says Palestinian? They're not saying kill anyone. You're saying in your mind that means kill us, right? I'm telling you, when we hear Zionism and my family, Zionism to them is my grandmother's land was taken. There's been violence perpetrated against my family. Right now in the West Bank, the settlers are going on pogroms against Palestinians. They just killed 3 yesterday. They're trying to drive my family from their land that they've had for generations. To them, that's what Zionism means, right? So if someone comes up and says, I'm a Zionist, they're going to hear, you want to erase us. You want to slaughter us. And you're like, that's crazy. No, that's the lived experience. So if that's the lived experience, then let's be equal then. If you're going to say globalized intifada means this, then we're going to say Zionism means that. So no one can use those words. And no, that'll never be agreed to.
And where does that get us? And this is why I love his candidacy, because it's going to you're going to have to decide, do you stand with the Republican Islamophobes who only want Israel because of this Christian, whatever it is? And I'm not against Christianity either. I'm against the people who are fundamentalists. I'm just saying, like, what is going on here? You're going to have to decide. And if you're going to claim that Zohan Mamdani is, I always get the M's and the D's, Mamdani
Zohran
is Zoran
Mamdani.
Mamdani, if you're going to claim that if you're going to attack him and be Islamophobic and lie and claim he's anti-Semitic, then you stand with the Republicans. That's where you are. Choose sides. And to me, it's a litmus test.
I think that's great. I'm chatting with Jennifer Taub, a professor at Wayne State University. So look, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Look, anyone who opposes him because they don't like his plans on raising taxes on them because they're rich, or free buses or free childcare, that's fair game. It's the bigotry and hate. And unfortunately, that's part of the fuel on the right. I'm glad that it's 8-1 Democrat to Republican here. I still think no matter what, even if Cuomo doesn't run, it'll be close. Eric Adams nobody wants the status quo in New York, not Democrats, not Republicans. So they're going to have to find another candidate. Those people really want to defeat Zohran because Adams is not going to win. He's not liked by anybody right now. So, all right, let's shift gears because I want to talk about some law stuff with you because you are a law professor. The Supreme Court today ruled 6-3, and anytime you see 6-3, folks, you know it's bad because it's the 6 conservatives against the 3 liberals. This one, South Carolina, and that people wanted to sue to say Medicaid should pay for their Planned Parenthood health care. And the Supreme Court goes, nope, you can't do it. So tell us a little bit about the legal reasoning here, but then the real world impact of this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and so let's just step back to something called the Hyde Amendment, right? And this goes back several decades. Already, federal, you knew I was going to go to this, right? Already federal law does not allow Medicaid funds to go toward abortion, period. So so that's already a restriction. What happened today goes a step further. It says states, essentially this state, South Carolina, when it is administering Medicaid funds, because the states do that, they can exclude Planned Parenthood. So that means if you are someone on Medicaid who wants to go to your annual checkup, you cannot go to Planned Parenthood. If you want to go in to see if you're pregnant and get a pregnancy test, that won't be covered. If you want to get birth control, or if you just want to do a regular health check, you cannot use Planned Parenthood. And so this is obviously a way of defunding Planned Parenthood because money essentially is fungible, right? Even if people have to pay out of pocket, or maybe they would subsidize, they can maybe cross-subsidize abortions. I mean, I'm not saying that's what they're literally doing, but you know how things work. So they're basically trying to starve Planned Parenthood because who's going to Planned Parenthood, right? Like it's going to be teenagers, and maybe they're paying out of pocket because they don't want to tell their parents they're getting an abortion or whatever. Or it might be someone who can't afford to go to any other gynecologist or doctor, and they may have that in their community. It's a war against women, really.
Right. So now it makes it harder, though, for people to challenge states who are saying, because they're Republican states, that we're not going to let any state funds go to Planned Parenthood. That's what the Supreme Court did. Individual Medicaid patients cannot sue to enforce the right to pick a medical provider. And this is all part of the redesigning of America consistent with a far-right Christian nationalist vision that we're dealing with here. This is all part of it. It's right. From a legal point of view, I can see how you can get to this ground because you don't want individuals to be able to have standing to sue the state, but it's not in a vacuum. It's part of a bigger picture. The same court that overturned Roe v. Wade is doing this. So it's part of that.
And you know why it's part of it? I mean, it's not just about making men feel good and feel like they're top of the hierarchy. It's specifically about controlling and controlling reproduction of the white and quote unquote race, right? Because if women cannot have access to abortion care, that is a way of, I mean, they want to have white women who are the ones who have fewer children have less access to abortions, basically, without, they want them to have children.
It's remarkable, and that's what we're living through here. So the next thing, tomorrow is the last day of the Supreme Court term. We're going to get, I think there's 5 or 6 cases.
6.
The big one is, there's six. The big one that people are waiting for a lot is Donald Trump's effort to try to rewrite the 14th Amendment to end birthright citizenship. But that really
Mm.
wasn't the issue that was debated before the court. It was about these nationwide injunctions that a federal district court judge can do, which is stopping Donald Trump a lot. What we don't know what the ruling is going to be. What's your sense of what it might be?
Well, because I'm in a really good mood, it's going to be bad. My
Okay,
sense, you asked me my sense, what are the feels, what are the vibes?
like Spidey
Um,
senses. No, as a
yeah,
as
my
a
spidey
constitution
sense.
as a law professor, what do
Okay,
you think?
I mean, it depends. If they're Are they going to rule more narrowly on the nationwide
That's what you
injunction
think,
issue, or are
right?
they going to, and then, in some concurrence or some dicta on a footnote, hint at what they're going to be doing? Um, I don't know, but I do think I do think there are going to be some justices who are going to either directly or indirectly say, enough with this birthright citizenship. On the other hand, there's no way I think it would getting dismantling birthright citizenship can survive, because then you and I, we're sitting here and we think we're citizens because both of our parents were, well, I don't know, was your father born here? I'll skip you for a
No,
second. Okay,
my mom
both of
was.
them. Okay, let's just look at this. What either way? Let's say, okay, I got both of my parents who were born in the U.S., but really, what about my mother? Does she count? Because her mother was born in Canada. Well, maybe it counts, but where was my mother's parents born? How far back do we go to take all of our citizenship away? So, how the heck do you manage this? And you know
That's
what
an
I'm
interesting
saying.
point.
But
Right.
so I think they're going to have to deal
But
with
what
the
about the injunctions?
grandfathering. Go ahead.
But what, like, I don't think, look, I don't, the real issue before them,
It's
I
this
don't think the focus
executive
was the
order,
14th.
right?
Right.
He had
But
this
it's the idea of
executive
having,
order. Go ahead.
no, but I want to say, if this, just so people know, the idea of a federal district judge having the power to enjoin or put an injunction against an administration nationwide is not based on the Constitution. It's not based on statute. It's just judicial norms that have evolved over time. So the Supreme Court could end it if they want to. Is that correct?
Right. Well, I think they could end it and just say you can have, grant equitable relief over the people in your jurisdiction. And if that happened, it's really not necessarily the end of the world. What's tricky, though, is who's in a district court's jurisdiction if it's a class action.
Right.
Typically, the class can be broader than people in that jurisdiction. So this gets complicated. I don't know where, it's hard to predict where they're going to go, and if they're going to carve out things like the Constitution, or who knows. So instead of predicting, I'm just going to sit and watch and see what happens. But again, I think that if they get to the merits of this, which would be good, because I don't think there are the votes to dismantle birthright citizenship, I still think there are going to be some stinkers in the bunch, and their names are Gorsuch, Thomas, and Alito.
That's interesting. I think if what they'll do on the injunction thing, I don't think the Supreme Court wants to take power away from other judges. I really don't. I think they're protective as an institution, but I could see them limiting it in a way and saying that nationwide injunctions, like you were sort of getting at, it might be in a certain circumstance when it deals with a constitutional issue, yes, but not a specific issue about, but whatever it might be, an agency action or whatever. And that can be more binding on just the party. Because the real question is here, folks, should it be a decision that's binding on just the parties there, or can you apply it to the whole nation? But that's going to
And
regard
because this is like
it's
the
going to be
Second
district by
Amendment
district
thing.
litigation. It's ridiculous. You'd be litigating it all over the nation to be
Right.
saying, well, this is unconstitutional. And 20 judges have found you got to keep litigating it as opposed to one going, it's unconstitutional. And maybe there's an expedited appeal process where, because look, it hurts Democrats too. They blocked
Right.
Biden a lot, and I was frustrated under Obama.
Right.
I was frustrated too. But you can make it easier for everybody by having some kind of expedited appeal process where it's only a slowing down really quickly. It gets briefed and moves up quickly and gets
Right.
decided on the merits, as opposed to ending it. Because I think judges should have this power. If something's egregiously unconstitutional, you shouldn't have to litigate it in district after district across the nation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, earlier during or after oral argument. It's like, what about the Second Amendment example? You're going to require
Right.
every district in the country someone to bring a case to challenge, and if they have different outcomes on, but maybe that, this whole laboratories of democracy idea is kind of their thing, kind of their jam. So,
It's
I don't know. I think it's not going to be a simple answer. And I think there might be many. I think it's going to be one of these things when it comes out, no one better do a Jeffrey Toobin. And I don't mean that Jeffrey Toobin. I mean the Jeffrey Toobin
right.
example on Obamacare, when he said it was struck down, but he didn't wait to see the rest of the decision. Remember that?
Oh, that was right. They jumped out. I remember that CNN doing
He
that. I used
jumped.
to do stuff at that time on air on CNN. I'm like, that was kind of bad. Like, do you
It was
really need
bad.
that 5 minutes earlier than everybody else? Why don't you just wait and get the decision and be right about it? Look, it's
Yeah,
going to be
that's going
interesting.
to be this
Tomorrow is really
one.
important
Yeah.
because just so people know, if the Supreme Court does say no district judge has the power for nationwide injunctions, it means Donald Trump can sit at his desk and try to rewrite the Constitution by pen and by executive order, and people are going to have to litigate it nationwide to stop it. What if he just says the First Amendment? He's so mad tonight at New York Times and CNN. He's going to sue them. He wants people fired. And he goes, you know what? I'm suspending the First Amendment in a time of bombing and that I can close down media
I'm
outlets.
laughing
And he does
because
it
he
in
might.
writing.
Right.
Right. And then you can't do one district judge. You have to go all across the nation to stop this. And maybe if the parties would be seeing, it's a little different when the parties
Well,
are
it depends
CNN
also. Is a
and
district,
the
yeah,
U.S.
go ahead.
government. No, no, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
I'm
the
just
question is,
thinking out
no,
loud
is it
about legal
90?
stuff.
So there's like 93 or 94 districts, but then they're different. There's also, well, there's sub court areas, right? So what's hard here, like there's only one district court in Massachusetts, but there's two different areas, one in Western Mass and one in Eastern. And then in New York, there's four districts, but they're also different courthouses, whatever. My point is, it's hundreds of places, or is it 93? And all I have to say is, a law professor, more, part of me is like, yay, more lawsuits, more law students.
Right.
Go
That's kind of
lawyers.
interesting. Look,
But on the,
if
like,
the Supreme
you
Court
know,
says injunctions can't work, Donald Trump, they're giving Trump more power. And you might say, well, a Democratic president then will have that same freedom. I don't think this court thinks there's going to be a Democratic president again. And if they can do anything to keep that from happening, I really believe they are. I think the Supreme Court is part and parcel of the apparatus of the GOP as a party. And so to me, it's not, I don't think they're thinking like, well, if a Democrat gets power, they're like, we're going to just keep this. As long as we're alive, it'll be fine. Uh, I hope they do not, if they do a ruling saying there cannot be nationwide injunctions, it's very, very, very narrow so that it can stop Donald Trump. Because if not, think about all the cases going on where they were stopped from firing people or defunding agencies, even if it was
there,
temporary.
the court claimed an argument, at least the judges at worst didn't think this was, problem banning nationwide injunctions. Their view was, we can move quickly when we want to.
Yeah. Well,
So they would
so
move
Jen, where can
quickly.
people,
They'd move
yeah,
quickly,
not in a good way.
when it's
So
a Biden thing. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, say before we wrap up, I wanted you to be able to plug your YouTube show and where can
Oh
people
yeah.
follow that and follow your work?
Yeah, YouTube, just put Jen Taub, two words, Jentaub. I'm on every morning Eastern from 8:30 a.m. to around 9:15. Sometimes I have guests, including yours truly,
I was
Adina
on.
Badella,
Sure.
and I'm going to have, hopefully, top secret, but I'm going to have E. Jean Carroll soon.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, her book is just landed on the bestseller list. It's called
Oh, good.
Not
Congratulations.
My Type.
Not my type.
It's very
I'm
funny.
going to
It's very,
I'm
very,
going to reach
very
out to you
funny.
after you get Eugene on because I don't know her personally. Then hopefully I can get her on because I'd love to talk
Oh,
about
you
her book. I'll
can.
buy her book
Oh,
and then have her on to talk about it.
listen to it on Audible because she reads it, and she is
Okay.
so funny, Dean. You won't be able to. You won't be able to
Oh,
put it
she reads
down.
it. Okay. I won't be able to put the earbuds down. But yes, you're right. All right, Jen. Thank you so much, my friend. Have a good weekend.
Bye.